session. Good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are joining from. Welcome to the Microsoft Excel for Beginners session. Today is the second day of this cohort. And last week we started with an introduction to Microsoft Excel, where we looked at some of the basic functionality of Excel. So we looked at the interface, we looked at worksheets and workbooks. We tried to see how they work. We did creating, deleting, and renaming worksheets, freezing panes, data entry, and a bit of formatting. So this week we are going to be looking at data visualization. So we'll start the class off with creating simple charts in Microsoft Excel, and then we'll be able to format those charts, and then we'll briefly also talk about references, and then we'll start digging into Excel using basic functions. Please, I want you to confirm that you can see my screen. What do you see on my screen at the moment? I want to know.
The two learning outcomes, the one recap, data visualization, that's what can see on the screen.
Okay, how about now?
Can
you see an Excel spreadsheet? All right, then. Thank you very much. Yeah, so today, like I mentioned, we are going to be looking at data visualization. We're going to be starting out with data visualization, where we'll look at some simple charts that you can work with in Microsoft Excel. Not sure. Please, is my screen flickering? Can you see any flickers on my screen?
No.
Okay. Just want to be sure. I'm seeing some flickers here. So, I'm going to share the workbook right away so that you can walk along. I'm going to be sharing the link to this same workbook so you can walk along as we are working. Yeah. So please confirm that you've seen the screen. You've seen the workbook I just shared. All right. So we have a spreadsheet here with a couple of tabs. There are 3 tabs in all. So you see there are 4 tabs actually. The first tab is the course outline, and then the second tab you see property sales. You see the third tab you see computer sales, and then in the last tab you'd see exam results. Yes, so we're going to just be starting with the very first one, which is property sales. Please, if you are not using your mic, kindly mute so that you are not disturbing the recording. Thank you. Right, so we're going to be starting with this particular worksheet, the property sales worksheet, and basically with visualization, right? What you are trying to do in Microsoft when you are trying to visualize data is that a lot of people prefer to see images rather than just looking at numbers. Just looking at numbers does not make sense to a lot of people. So some people would rather prefer, show me a chart, show me an image, show me an image that simply explains what you're trying to tell me. So that's where visualizations come in. And some of the easiest visualizations you can show people, there are 3 of them. We have bar charts, we have line charts, and we have pie charts. That's like some of the simplest visualization tools you can you can't have. So I'm going to be doing some visualizations on this first table where you have, which is Bloomfield Property Group Sales. And one of the things to put in mind when you are visualizing is to understand, okay, so what message are you trying to pass to your audience, right? What message are you trying to pass to your audience? So if you look at this now, this is a sales inventory, right? You'd see here you have different types of property, different types of property. You see unit price, you see units available, you see units sold, you see total value, you see the revenue, you see the profit, you see the profit percentage, sales tax, and the likes. So what do you want to show people? From this table alone, I can decide that, oh, I'm interested in projecting my profits, right? Or I'm interested in just projecting revenue. So how can I do that? Definitely, Excel has a smart way whereby it can recommend the type of chart you want based on the data type it sees. So let's say, for instance, let's start with this unit price. Let's say I'm interested in visualizing my unit price, right? Typically, the first thing you want to do is to highlight the data you want to visualize. So you see that I've highlighted these two columns, which I want to visualize first. And then the next thing I want to do is click on the insert button, which is typically the group that you use for inserting anything in Excel. Now, you will see when I put insert, there is already a command here that says recommended. This is pivot tables. I'm not interested in pivot tables yet. So there's a recommended chart under the charts group here. So what I want to click on is recommended chart. Of course, when you are starting out, this is a very good place to start from. But with more experience, you get to understand, okay, what type of data should I use for what type of charts, right? And then you can see that Excel has recommended a few for me here. So the first thing it shows me is a clustered column, and then you see a clustered bar, you see pie chart, you see a funnel chart, excuse me, then you see different things. So how do you know which one is best, right? Let me expand this a bit. I'm not sure why my computer is freezing. A little bit. So you see, a clustered column chart is used to compare values across a few categories. Please take note of that. Use it when the order of categories is not important, right? Just like has been said, anything that has to do with clustering or bar charts generally, right? You want to make sure that the order of the chart is not important. So for this, for instance, I'm trying to show, okay, we have different categories. That's the first part. It has to be categorical data. What is categorical data? Categorical data basically means distinct in their data type. So like take, for instance, property type. A duplex is different from a bungalow. A bungalow is different from a terrace. So those are different categories. And then we want to try and see their prices, like their unit prices. Now, because there's no direct way to compare the unit price of a duplex and the unit price of a bungalow, you would say that type of data set is not ordered, meaning that it's not important that you show it in matter increasing or decreasing. So let's say you are trying to represent something like maybe age, for instance, which sometimes, even though age might not necessarily be a good comparison, but basically the idea is when you have data that the order, that's maybe you want to show from biggest to the smallest, or you want to show from the smallest to the biggest, you cannot use this type of chart. So there are different types of chart you can use for that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just click on OK, and then you see that Microsoft Excel has created a chart for me. And here you see it right? And then you can see duplex, bungalow, terrace, plot of land, flats, office space. Now, just looking at this image without even looking at the numbers, this can tell someone that is trying to make a decision a lot. You can see that a plot of land is the cheapest, right? Instead of looking through the numbers and then trying to on your own trying to see, okay, which is the smallest here now. Just by seeing this image, the person can see, oh, the plot of land is the cheapest thing to purchase, right? And then you can see that after that, it's a bungalow. So this is the power of visualization. It helps you to condense a lot of things. It helps you to condense information in a way that is easily digestible, that is you can easily make sense of it. That's how visualizations shine best. So let's say, for instance, I'm also interested in seeing the revenue by each of them, right? So I'm going to see, I can do revenue. I can highlight my revenue data, and then also highlight the property type. So, and then do the same thing, insert recommended charts. And then you see the same thing shows up. Now, you can see in terms of revenue that the biggest is a terrace. So terrace is, if you are looking for revenue, terrace will give you the biggest revenue. The plot of land will still give you the smallest revenue. But most of the time, you are not just interested in revenue, you are also interested in the profit. So let's see which one actually has the best profits, just using visualization. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete the one for revenue, and then I'm going to use profits. Or let me just do profit and revenue together. Let us see. Charts. Now, if I don't want to use recommended charts, of course, I can come here and include my own type of chart. So now you see insert column or bar chart. So here, cluster, this, which is the same thing, right? Now, there are different ways I might want to do this. So if I want to put revenue and let's do the first one. Let's look at the first, which is I want to put revenue and profit side by side, right? Now this is not currently showing the type, so I want to make sure I correct that. So let's edit data. So I'm going to click on select data. Right. I want to edit my data. Sorry, I'm trying to move closer to my monitor. No. Edit data, select data. Oh, sorry, my computer is really slow. Sorry. Sorry, let me repeat this from start. My computer is pretty slow. I don't know why that is. Not restarted in a few days. So I'm going to select the data type again. Charts. Yeah. So we have this. So you can see um, profits. Terrace gives the biggest profit at 240 million naira. Plot of land also gives the smallest profit. So at a glance, you can easily make a decision. Okay, so what do I want to invest in? Just looking at this chart. So I don't necessarily have to look through, you know, what's the word? I don't have to look through a bunch of numbers because I know a lot of people struggle with like numbers and also, yeah, visualizing data makes that decision a lot easier for people. All right, so any questions so far? Is there anything that I've done that's not clear? Questions or are we still here?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? I'm sorry, please let me turn off my video because of the bandwidth. I'm getting signals that my network is a bit slow. So yeah, um, are you following along or we're just learning and then after the class you want to go over whichever one works fine. So yeah, um, we've created our charts. Now the next thing is now formatting it. So when it comes to formatting, the same way we learned formatting last week, you can format cells. You can also format a chart. How do you format charts? So now the moment I clicked on this chart here, you see a couple of things came out. So the first thing that comes up here is chart design, meaning that you can change. Yeah, someone saying something. Okay. You can change the look and feel of your chart. Um, so let's see. See which one looks really. No. I like this. So I'm going to use this. Going to use this. Yeah. So this is. I've changed the formatting now. You can also update, the chart title. So just by clicking on this chart title here, you can see. I'll just change this. Revenue and profits by property type. So I've updated my chart title. The same way I can update this. if I want to, I can update. So now you see, you can also right click to change, to make edits. So you can see, change chart type. Let me see if you can update this. You should be able to. Okay, there's format legend. Now you see, I can change where it's located to the top. I can change it to left. No, I can change it to right. I can take it to top right, which for me is often like either the top or the top right is often my preferred location for, putting visualization legend. So the legend is basically what tells you about what your visuals are representing. So if you look here now, you see revenue is in blue, profits is in orange. Is this clear?
So, yes, I clear.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So this is one type of chart which is a very popular one for use that people use. This is by far like the most popular chart type, as a matter of fact, when you are analyzing data. This is one of the most popular type. Another very popular one that you use for categories. Now, there's one very important thing. When you are visualizing categorical data and you want to use the bar chart or column chart, particularly column, you want to be sure your categories are few, typically a maximum of 6 or 7 categories, so that your chart does not look too clustered together. So the same way, the next type of chart we'll be talking about is the pie chart. So let's say I want to change this unit price. I don't want to use the cluster chart which we used earlier. I can also use a column. I can use a bar chart, which is another very popular type of charts, a pie chart. So I'm going to click here and then insert. No, not data. I'm not inserting data here. So let's click on insert chart. So now you see there is another type of chart here. There's bar chart, there is donut chart, there is pie chart. So I'm going to be using the pie chart, which is the normal one. All right. So you can see pie charts are best for showing proportion. So you want to see how big something is with respect to something else. If that's what you want to show, pie charts are your go-to type of charts. Now, I'm going to click on to format. I'm going to format this because it's always a good thing to have. Let me see, for this legend, for instance, I prefer for my pie charts, I usually prefer my legend to be on the right? So yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And then you can also you can format it such that it shows the data label. So now I'm going to, sorry, this is really slow. I'm going to do yeah, add data labels, which is yeah, so you can see it shows the format data label. So what I want to do is that I want to show percentages. I don't want to show values. I want to show percentages, and then I want it to be outside. So this way, this is basically formatting, what formatting entails. So it's just, you can also put the series names, yeah, or category name. category name. So yeah, we can see this as this is a pie chart, right? And then to change the chart title, the same thing I did earlier, I'll just typically just double click on this and say unit price by property type. And then I can also format the same way I formatted this. I can change the look and the feel. You can also change the color if you are someone that likes to use a different set of colors. So I'm going to also change this format legend top right. Right. So I want to change these colors to something that looks a little more yeah, maybe not this. Yes. So I think this. So one general rule of charts is that you don't want your colors to be to be everywhere. Yeah, so you want to use something that's accessible. So in terms of accessibility, one of the core design principles for charts is, being able to make it for even for people that are colorblind, they should be able to use your chart without any problem. So that's the principle behind using this type of chart as against using something that has very many different colors, because you have people that are colorblind, they can't see maybe shades of red, they can't see shades of green and the like. So it's always better to use something that's slightly monochromatic. Any questions so far, or any reactions? Questions. Time has already gone. I want us to move really fast. Questions? Maybe we'll jump to cell references and then call it a day for that. Next week we'll start with basic functions. All right. Now, if you look on this particular spreadsheet, there is a what is the word? There's a column here that we've not used before now. This column. So let me. Are you guys with me? Why do I feel like I'm just talking to myself?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, with you, sir.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
with you,
yeah,
sir.
I want to introduce the idea of referencing in Microsoft Excel. So this is one of the very tricky part of Excel that makes working slightly it's beautiful, but at the same time it can be tricky. So yeah, but I think we should let's move on to the last part. I think we should talk about referencing when we have talked about formulas, right? I think that's going to make it a bit more so let's see. Today's class we're supposed to talk about simple charts, right? And then let's go on to basic functions. I'm experiencing a bit of delay or lag. So let's go on to basic functions in Excel. So if you come to this last chart, the last tab we have here, you'd see a table that has the scores for a class. There's math score, there's English score, then there's geography score. Then you see a couple of other things that are empty. So the aim is to show us how are we going to, how do we start using formulas in Microsoft Excel. So the first thing we are going to attempt to do here is we are going to categorize, right? Whether each student failed or passed mathematics. So that's going to be what this first. So let me put a note here. New notes. Students failed or passed mathematics. Pass equals to 40 and above. So yeah, so we are going to determine if a student failed or passed mathematics in this column called if. And how do we go about that? In Excel, I think I mentioned it. I'm not sure if I did, but maybe if I didn't, I'll just say it again. For you to use any formula or for you to perform any calculations in Excel, yeah, I think I performed the calculation last week, so I think I must have mentioned it. You use the equal to operator. So the moment Excel sees an equal to operator, it knows that, okay, this is a calculation or this is a formula. Now, for this task, we're interested in knowing if a candidate has passed mathematics or not. And then they've told us that anything above 39, that's 40 and above, is passed. So how do you write that to Excel? You use what is called the if formula or if expression or if calculation. Now you see the moment I put if, there is a documentation that comes out, checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if it is true and another value if it is false. So what I want to do now is that I want to ask Excel if, now the moment I put the brackets, there is a syntax that comes out. You see logical test, value if true, value if false. So the first thing I want to do is I want to click on this cell, which is this mathematics score for the first student, Fatima. If Fatima's score, mathematics score, is greater than 39, comma, now you see with Excel, you separate every variable with a comma. If it's greater than 39, then I want you to put pass. Otherwise, put another comma, fail. So now I'm going to close this and type the enter button. Now you see what Excel has done for me. It has put fail. Why did it put fail? Because Fatima had less than 39. Now, last week you remember we talked about flash fill and autofill. All I need to do to fill the entire column now is just to flash fill. And then you can see Excel will automatically populate the rest of the columns for me. And then you can see now going down, the column, I want you to take note of something very, very important. So I'm going to use this to explain relative and absolute referencing. Now, the first formula here is D3 greater than 39, right? That's the first formula. That's the very first formula. That's the very first formula. But you see, after flash filling, that when I go down, this is increasing by 1. So you see the next line automatically changes to D4. The next line changes to D5. The next line changes to D6, and so on and so forth. How does it change? It changes by using what is called relative referencing. Excel will automatically, or by default, it would assume relative referencing. So now, I'm going to do something different. So let's say I'm not interested. I don't want Excel to do that for me. I can now do what is called anchoring on my formula. Anchoring is basically, just a second, please. Just minutes. Right, so let's just continue. Now, by default, Excel would try to guess. It will try to, like I said, it will try to automatically change the row number by default. So let me do the first 2 or 3. So now you would see D3 here has changed to D4. D4, when I go down, changes to D5. D5 changes to D6. So let's say, for instance, I don't want that to happen. I can use what is called absolute referencing. What I will do is that I just need to put a $ behind the number 3, which is changing. Remember, it's the number 3 that is changing. I'll put a $, which is known as the anchor. So if I do that, what will happen is when I scroll down, Excel will keep my 3 constant. Now, you might be wondering, when do you need this kind of thing? I'll show you in a bit. So you will see that as I'm going down, that 3 remains constant, right? In the same way, if I drag this formula and I drag it right, what happens is you can see this, that is D3. By the time I drag it right, it changes to what? E3. That makes sense? Anybody, any questions? By the time I move again, you see it has changed to F3. The next one has changed to G3. You can see. Now, if I don't want that to happen, what I simply would do is that instead of putting my anchor on just number 3, I'll put another anchor on this D. That's the $. I'm going to put it on D. Now, if I drag to the right, you can see that D has remained constant. So D3, 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 they both remain constant. But for this particular example, we are not actually interested in anchoring. We don't want to anchor. So what I'm going to do is just that I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm not going to anchor, and then I'll go back to the previous tab. That's the property sales tab. And then I will now show you where anchors work. Now you see fill, and then this has changed back. So, but let's finish this. Excuse me, sorry. This one. Let's finish this. Questions? Anything that's not clear? This is often my experience. This is one of the most difficult things to understand properly in Excel, but yeah, it's not a difficult thing at all. Questions. I want to hear questions. Questions. Are we here? Are we with me?
Yes.
With you, sir.
Yes.
Do we fully understand what I just done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So now the next column, which is the OR column, the OR column is we want to find out if or if a candidate or a student has passed any of these three courses. So an OR statement is used to determine if one condition is met, right? If at least one condition is met, and then it will return true, and is used to it's used for confirming if all the conditions are met. That's the AND for. So now what we are going to do with this OR is that we are going to see if a student has passed at least one course, right? And for this one, our pass mark will be 50. So we want to know if a student scored 50 or more in either mathematics or English or geography, then we want you to put pass. No, for now, we'll just leave it at true and false, right? You don't want to start with nesting. So nesting is something we'll discuss later. But basically, we want to know if a student has had at least 50 in one of these three courses. So how do you do that? You do that using the OR. So you see the definition here. It says checks whether any of the arguments are true. Returns true or false. Returns false only if all arguments are false. So now, what this will do is that we are going to see if B3 is greater than 49. So the pass mark, like we said, is 50. So 50 is greater than 49, or E3 is greater than 49, or F3 is greater than 49. So you can see the true. Why does it return true? Because here 101 is greater than 49. So one of that three conditions matches the criteria, and then it will return a true. So that is what OR is used for. But then you see for this person, this is the first false you have here. The reason you have false here is because if you look at all the three, 45 here, 4 here, and then 14. All of them are below 50, so it will return a false. That is how OR works. Only very few falses, because it basically means those that have all forces failed all their courses, right? So that's what the OR means. For AND, we're going to do something similar, right? We are going to check for those that pass all the 3 courses, meaning that anybody that has above, so let's do something. Let's use here, instead of 49 that we used, let's use 39 so that we are uniform for all the 3 places. So we are going to use 39 here too. 39. I'm going to copy this down. All right. So now for AND, what we want is we want to check for people that pass all the 3. All the 3. So this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to put AND, and then I'm going to do this greater than 39, also greater than 39. So now, if I click on enter, you can see that this person did not pass all. So for this criteria now, we are interested in people that pass all 3 courses, Maths, English, and Geography. And then when I drag down, all the way down, you can see that only very few people have at least 39. Only very few people have greater than have 40 and greater. So the first person that has it here is Joseph, who had 55, 56, and 76, right? The same thing with Ibrahim, which followed. So you had 66, 45, and 76. But most of them did not have greater than 39 in all 3 courses. Any question about these 3 functions we have just had a look at? Questions on any of them? Okay. I'm assuming there's no question. And then I can't see any in the chat either. All right. So the next thing we are going to now do is we are going to go back to property sales where we started. And then I'm going to use it to demonstrate referencing, right? Is Isabel still on the call? Okay, yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, so now I want you to take a look at this column. So let's assume for some reason we want to so let's see. We want to find the sales tax for each of these sales, right? So now we know, let me put this here. So that when you sell something, at least this is it's not a real company, it's imaginary. So let's say for Nigeria, for those of us in Nigeria, tax is usually 7.5%. But let's say you've made a sale, right? And you want to calculate your sales tax. Now, sales tax is 10%. You would see, let me remove this. Arrows to let you see the power of anchoring and cell referencing. Now, the total sales value for what is it called? For all the property is 4.5 million or billion, right? And then for revenue, 1 billion. For profits, 865 million. Now, let's say I want to calculate 10% of each of these values. By default, right? By default, what I'm supposed to do is just do. Now, if you look at, there's another table here that says sales tax is 10%, right? I need to pay attention to this. So I've put a table here that says sales tax is 10%. So now I want to calculate my sales tax for the total value. I'm going to do sales tax equals to this value, F9, multiplied by sales tax. When I do that, now you can see I have 475 million, which is very correct. Now, let me now drag this formula, drag it across. You will see that what happens is that while the first cell, which is G9 here has shifted one column. So before it was F9 multiplied by M3, right? Now, when you move that formula right, it has changed to G9 multiplied by M3. But what I'm really interested in is just this F9 to change. I don't want this M3 to change, because if M3 changes, it's going to change to N3. And then what is in N3 is not 10%, which is, something else. So this is going to give me an error. So that is where anchoring really helps. This is one of the ways it shines. When you are moving either across a column or you are moving down rows, what happens is for you to move, so when you want to move across like this, you need to anchor the column. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to anchor this M. And then when I move this formula, to the right, now you can see, this is basically the same thing. You can see that this is no longer giving me an error. That is because I've anchored this M, this column M, such that even when I'm moving right, don't move away. Does that make sense? The same way, if I move it further right, the same thing happens, and then I'm able to get my tax correctly. Now, if you understand this simple concept in Microsoft Excel, there's no type of report or dashboard you want to build that you cannot build, because this is basically the foundation for building anything in Microsoft Excel, understanding absolute and relative references. So what we've done here is that we have made column M in our formula absolute, meaning that don't change values. Even when we shift formulas, make sure you remain where you are. There will be other instances that it's going to be the row that you want to keep and you don't want to move. You want to make the row absolute. Maybe next week, I will look at some of that kind of instance where you keep your, as you are moving down rows, you keep it steady so that it doesn't affect your formula. Any questions so far? Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Can you please repeat the anchoring from
Anchoring.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. So the idea behind an anchor is that is taken from, marine, like a ship. So if you've been on the sea before, when a ship is close to an harbor or a harbor, what they do is that they throw a very big iron or a very big weight, something that has a very big weight called an anchor. They throw it down to the seabed. And what that does is that it keeps the boat steady. It doesn't make it, move side by side. The same idea behind formulas. You will see that by default, as I demonstrated in this particular sheet, when you write a formula on Microsoft Excel, when you drag the formula down, or when you do autofilling, like we did last week, Excel would assume relative referencing. It will assume that when you move from row 1 to row 2, change your formula by one, by one. So like what we did here. So if D3 is greater than 39, when you move down, Excel would assume you are using relative formulas. So it's going to automatically change D3 to D4. That is when you are moving down a column. But when you are moving across rows, what happens is it's going to automatically change the columns too. So if I let me use this again for instance. If I drag this formula to the right, let me use something that is not going to confuse. So if I drag this formula to the right, by default, you can see that this is D12. But when I drag it right, Excel automatically changes it to E12. So that is called relative, meaning that move this formula relative to where you are coming from. But most of the time when you are working with data, you don't want to use that. So you want to anchor your formula, but you don't anchor, most of the time you don't anchor both. There are times that you want to anchor both, but most of the time you don't want to anchor both. So you are either moving down a column, you want to keep your row constant, and that is what we have here, or you are moving across the rows and you want to keep your column constant. So that was what we had here. We had a situation where we are trying to calculate the sales tax, and then what we did here was, so you can see now, immediately I copied this formula from this cell F10 to cell F11. You can see Excel has automatically changed F9 to F10. You can see here, F9 has changed to F10. But you will see that because you see that M3 has also changed to M4, right? But I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is, in my M3 here, I'm also going to anchor this M3. I'm going to put this anchor. And how do you anchor? You put the $sign behind what you are anchoring. So I'm going to anchor M3. And then I'll anchor anchor 9, right? So now I'm going to show you how this works. So now if I anchor F9 and then I drag this formula down, see that what we have on top is the same thing as what we have below, because I've put this $sign behind this number 9. So even if I drag my formula down, that 9 will remain where it is. It has been anchored down using that $sign. That $sign is for anchoring. The same thing for the M and for the 3. Remember, when you are going down rows, because rows are the ones that use number. Row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, row 7. So you are going down rows. But when you are moving right, you are moving across columns. So if you anchor a row, so now for instance, I've anchored row 9. If I drag my formula down to the end of the spreadsheet, that 9 will remain in place. It's not going to change where it's located, right? The same way, if I move across and I anchor M, so because M now is this value here, I don't want this value to shift. If I don't anchor this M, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to remove this dollar sign from the M, and then I would try to now move right. Now, what you see is that you have an error. The reason is that M has changed to N, and then you can see N here is a string. It's not a number. So there's no way you can multiply a number and a string together. It's going to give you an error. So what, to avoid that kind of thing, I would need to anchor this letter M. And then by anchoring it, and then moving the formula right, move the formula right. Now you can see is the same. So now you can see that M has remained where it has been. That clear? Does that make better sense?
Yes, it's clear now.
All right. So now you can see that our values make more sense. So now this, once you understand, now with practice, you get a lot better. So what I want us to try as against next week is that, so you see these exam results. I want you to try to populate this column. Basically, what this is doing is this is a nested if statement. If I want to, they're complex. They are really complex. We didn't even get to talk about minimum, average, max, and mean. But our time is already fast spent, so I wouldn't want to keep you guys any much longer. If you can, right, try your hands on this, right? Basically, what you are trying to do here is that if someone has above 69, I think 69 is the distinction. No, 60. Give them a distinction, right? If the person has above 39, give them a pass. If the person has below 39, give them a fail. Now you will see that this is different from where we have just two conditions. If it's above 39, pass. If it's below 39, fail. So now what you want to do in this column is that if they have below 39, they failed. If they have 39 and below, they failed. If they have 40 up to 59, they pass. If they have anything 60 and above, they have a distinction. So try your hands, see if you can get that to work, right?
Yes, yes.